What happens when a royal walks into one of America's most respected interview shows, only to storm out in fury? Prince Harry's long-awaited 60 minutes conversation with Anderson Cooper began like any other high-profile sit-down. Calm lighting, muted decor, 2 chairs, and the quiet expectation of serious journalism. The studio was cool and silent, cameras already humming. Every breath seemed to echo in the space between them. Anderson greeted him warmly, extending his hand with practiced composure. "Harry, thank you for being here." Harry nodded. Polite but rigid and composed on the surface, yet something restless simmered beneath. His jaw tightened slightly, and though he returned the handshake, his eyes carried a guarded sharpness, as though the very act of sitting in that chair was an intrusion. The first questions were gentle. Life in America, family, new ventures. Harry's responses, though polite, carried an edge sharper than expected. "America has been tolerable," he said with a faint smirk. "At least here I'm not trapped in outdated rituals or treated like a spare part." Anderson leaned in just enough to signal engagement. "But isn't there comfort in tradition? A sense of belonging, perhaps?" Harry gave a short laugh, almost dismissive. "Comfort for those on golden thrones. Tradition is just a cage with better wallpaper." The words cut through the quiet. The crew, trained to be invisible, exchanged quick glances. They'd heard powerful people spar with Anderson before, but this had the makings of a storm. Anderson pressed on, his voice steady. "Millions still admire the monarchy. What do you say to them? They're in love with a fairy tale," Harry snapped, eyes narrowing. "They don't see the manipulation behind the crown." Anderson let the silence linger, his pen poised just above the notebook on his knee. He had learned long ago that silence was its own form of pressure. Harry shifted, uncomfortable under the weight of it. The conversation turned to family. "You've spoken about life as a husband and father. How is it away from the institution?" Harry's expression softened only slightly, though his words carried steel. "Life is mine now, and frankly, no one has the right to dissect it." Anderson's reply was quiet but precise. "But when you speak publicly, in documentaries, your book interviews like this, doesn't that open the door to questions?" Harry's irritation surfaced. "Privacy doesn't mean silence. It means control. I decide what people get to know." Control. The word hung in the air. Anderson caught it, turning it over carefully. "You talk about control often. Some would say that sounds selective." Harry folded his arms, leaning back. "It's called freedom, something an American like you should understand." The challenge was clear, direct, cold. The temperature in the room shifted. The hum of the lights seemed louder now, the faint shuffle of a cameraman's shoes sharper. The air thickened, invisible but undeniable. Anderson went deeper. "Let's talk legacy. Your mother, Princess Diana. Many see you carrying her spirit. Do you embrace that?" Harry stiffened, eyes narrowing again. His voice dropped lower, measured but seething. "Legacy is a word the media loves. You built my mother up, tore her down, and now expect me to wear her crown of grief like a badge. I am not her replacement." Anderson absorbed the strike without visible reaction. His tone remained level. "Fair point. Then let me ask. Critics say your marriage to Meghan pulled you further from family. How do you respond?" Harry's expression darkened, his lips pressing into a thin line. "Critics? You mean strangers who've never met her? Meghan didn't pull me away, she saved me. Anyone who can't see that is blind." Anderson's next line was surgical. "But when you say saved, doesn't that place your agency in her hands? Doesn't that give her singular control?" Harry snapped back instantly. "It's called partnership. Something journalists don't understand." The tension was now palpable, a pressure chamber threatening to burst. Even the steady hands of the cameraman trembled ever so slightly. Anderson tried again, his voice unwavering. "You say you protect your children, but by writing books, filming series, and doing interviews, aren't you also putting them in the spotlight just under your terms?" Harry leaned forward, his voice sharp, his words pointed like knives. "I don't owe reconciliation. I decide what's best. Not the press, not the crown, not people like you." For the first time, Anderson's expression shifted, just slightly. A flicker of irritation beneath the calm exterior. He adjusted his pen slowly, deliberately. "Do you think there's room for balance?" Harry smirked, a cold laugh escaping his lips. Balance is a myth. Either you control your story or it controls you. I refuse to be a victim of narrative. Silence followed. Heavy, immovable. Even the crew seemed to hold their breath. Then Anderson, calm, but colder now, delivered the line that cracked everything open. I've interviewed presidents at their lowest. Soldiers, grieving families. They all shared one thing: humility. Do you worry yours has been lost? Harry's jaw clenched. His knuckles whitened as his hands tightened against the armrest of the chair. He stared hard at Anderson, a storm raging behind his eyes. Don't lecture me about humility. I've lived through things you wouldn't survive. Humility is for people still begging for approval, and I don't need anyone's. The words echoed like a door slamming shut. Anderson, unshaken, leaned back slightly, setting his pen down with quiet finality. His eyes, steady and unflinching, remained locked on Harry. What does the future look like for you? 10 years from now, who is Prince Harry? Harry gave a low, dismissive laugh. The future is mine. I don't need to present it like a press release. People can accept that, or choke on their expectations. It was the breaking point. Anderson placed his notebook down gently, folding his hands. The unspoken truth filled the air. The conversation had reached its natural end, but not in the way anyone expected. Harry exhaled sharply, ripped the microphone cord from his shirt, and tossed it onto the table with a sharp snap. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the stunned studio. This interview is over. He stood, the chair scraping loudly against the floor, and strode off set, leaving Anderson seated in the sudden, stunned quiet. The crew froze, cameras still rolling, capturing every second of the royal exit. Anderson remained still, calm, composed, though his eyes betrayed the weight of what had just happened. The door closed behind Harry with a heavy thud. The studio remained silent for a long beat, the kind of silence that vibrates with everything left unsaid. Finally, a producer whispered, "Keep rolling," because history had just been recorded. Anderson leaned back, exhaled, and tapped his pen against the notebook once. He didn't need to say a word. The footage would speak for itself. By nightfall, whispers of the walkout leaked. By morning, headlines blazed. Prince Harry storms out of 60 Minutes. Anderson Cooper holds his ground in explosive interview. Royal fury meets journalistic resolve. What began as a sit-down to discuss life, legacy, and future had instead become a clash of wills, a duel between crown and camera, pride and patience. And in that duel, the only winner was silence.